So as you may have noticed if you actually watched the 10-minute train wreck that was me attempting to build a deck, I built a shitty deck. So how did it all pan out? Well, let's take a look. In the first game of the first match, I won the die roll, and this time I decided to play first. I decided to keep this hand that's only got 2 lands in it, because why not? And I got this Quirion Dryad with Incinerate to kill his early stuff. Might as well. This game showcases just how outclassed my deck was. He puts down a Godless Shrine, taking the pain, and then plays this card, which I'd never seen before. It's basically something that lets him throw away whatever he wants. He decides to actually get rid of my Beast Within, the thing that destroys a target permanent and gives the controller a 3/3 creature, which is weird. He's letting me play my Dryad. Oh my gosh, what is going on? Well, I draw this Firewalker, which I conveniently can't play, but I do put my Dryad down and hope for the best. He puts down a sack land, so he's done 3 damage to himself, gets a Swamp into play, and uses that to cast Demonic Tutor. So this is a nice card from back in the day. He just gets to put whatever card he wants into his hand. Alright, well, I'm still just hoping for the best here. I still don't draw a mountain, which means I cannot play this Firewalker, but I do get to play this Curdape, which I just drew, living kind of the dream, the mountain and the forest. I play it first so that my Quirion Dryad gets a counter, and then I swing. He's down 15 at 3 lands. He puts down the Sword of War and Peace. I remember passing this thing, so it does give the creature protection from red and from white, which is sad, but at least the hit effect isn't that big a deal. It's just life damage and gain, so it's not going to be killing my creatures or anything. I still don't draw a land, and upon drawing this Doran Siege Tower, I realized, what is that doing in my deck? That's playing off of both my splash colors. Of course the Woolly Thokdar would have been better to put in. So that's great. Really happy to see that. I swing for 4 damage, get him down to 11. At 4 mana, he plays this thing, which I've definitely never seen before. So if you've never seen this card before, basically, it's a 6/6 with Flying and Trample. It costs a mere 4 mana. But it has the condition that you can't win the game and your opponents can't lose the game. So clearly the point is you get your opponent down to negative hit points and find a way to sack your own creature, then you win. Kind of a badass card. I almost want to build a normal deck with that in it. It's pretty sweet. Well, I can't attack into it. I draw Master of the Wild Hunt, which is spectacular on 2 lands, and do nothing. At 5 mana, he's not missing any land drops. He puts his sword onto his dude and attacks. I guess he figures that the life gain is going to make it worth it to race against my 4 damage. So he gets 4 hit points back. So actually, yes, that is quite worth it. I draw a Cursed Scroll, which is really unhelpful here. I'm still kind of mana screwed. I whack him for 4 damage, because why not? It's not like I can block that thing anyway. At 6 lands, still not missing any land drops. He taps all of his mana for Mindslaver, so he's going to get to control my next turn. Well, whatever. I can't do anything, so I'm not really that worried. I guess he'll be able to incinerate one of my own guys. Ultimately, though, it proves kind of irrelevant. He swings me down to negative hit points, deals more damage to me. I'm at -9. He's up to 14. I don't think I even realized that this slaver would let him incinerate one of my own things, but it doesn't matter because now I drew this Volcanic Hammer, so no matter what, he would have been able to use one of my burn spells on my own creatures. I decide to cast Incinerate on him just to be desperate, I guess, and put another counter on my Dryad. I hit him for 5 damage, get him down to 6, and on his turn he untaps and plays Innocent Blood. Cute, cute, cute. So now he can sacrifice his dude, and then, since I'm at negative hit points, I lose the game. So, wow. Wow, I am very outclassed. It was quite a humbling experience. The trick that lets you force MTGO to remember your games is a trick that I used on like 5 games in this match or something, or 4 games. There was one game I forgot though. That was my next game against this opponent. Basically, it was kind of similar to this game. He had that guy, he was doing his thing, except I wasn't actually mana screwed, so I was able to race him down. And I got that artifact that charges up every time you cast a red spell, and I was able to burn him out with it. So the next game we're going to take a look at is game 3 of our match. He lost the previous game, so this game he got to decide whether to go first or not. He chose to go first. And neither of us mulligan. This is a pretty decent hand, to be honest. I got a big dude, the Taurian Mauler, and actually with this Harbor, which, why is that in my deck? I have no blue spells. And the Taiga, I can actually cast Garruk. So, that seems pretty good. He sacks a tap land and plays this Inquisition on me again. So that's sort of sad. He gets rid of the Taurian Mauler, my big creature, but I'm like, okay, whatever. I can still play my War Driver, which is a 2/2, and it's totally useless with no other creatures on the board, but whatevs. He plays Plains, and then plays Duress, which allows him to discard any non-creature, non-land card. Quite convenient, because the Planeswalker is not a creature, so he does get rid of my Planeswalker. I'm like, oh my god. Alright, so I played a Mountain, which allows me to put down my mighty 2/2. He gets a third land and plays Imperial Seal. So this is something that lets him lose 2 life, but put whatever card he wants on top of his deck. Seems like it's not as good as Diabolic Tutor, which puts the card in his hand and doesn't have the life loss. But I guess he just wanted as many tutor effects in his deck as he could get, seeing as how he had kind of a combo victory. I'm not sure what he tutored up with it, but I bet it was that flyer, because that's what he played on the next turn. Now he plays Reanimate, quite cute, which lets him reanimate a creature. Since he had earlier thrown away the Taurian Mauler, he gets to reanimate my guy. It's worth noting, he's lost 1 life for this tap land, 2 life for the Imperial Seal, and now 3 life for the Taurian Mauler. So all this damage, 6 damage, is what he's done to himself. This ends up being pretty vital. I decided to swing at the Mauler because it's only going to get bigger the longer I wait. He decides to block. That's probably an error, because if he takes this 2 damage, I'm certain to play some more spells, and at the very least, he could then just block this War Driver outright as opposed to chumping it or trading with it. So I think I got a little lucky there. That doesn't seem like it was a good play to me. I then play the Volshock Refugee. Perhaps he wanted to trade off against my guy because my Volshock Refugee has protection from red, so the Mauler couldn't block it anyway. I'm not sure. But on his turn, he plays a 4th land and drops down Mr. Trixie. So, great. This guy unfortunately has protection from red, not from black, and I draw a land. So I'm actually flooded. My deck does not want to draw 6 lands, ever. But I draw the Jungle Lion and hope for the best. Now, the only saving grace is he only does have 2 cards. And he's low enough that if we race, I might actually be able to kill him before he can find a way to sacrifice that thing. He plays the Ratchet Bomb, which you can take a look at what that is if you haven't seen it before. This is actually not that bad, because my permanents here, I have a 1 cost and a 3 cost, so he can't kill them both. And it's going to take a few turns if he wants to use it as the way to kill this guy. I think basically what he should have done at this point is just, waited the 4 turns. And, oh, wait, yeah, he's in a tricky spot, because he needs to attack me for sacking this guy to actually win the game for him. But if he attacks me, then my 2 guys get to attack, and, this is 5 damage a turn, so it's, a 3-turn clock I have on him, whereas he's going to have to swing at me with this guy 4 times before sacking it will actually win him the game. So actually, at this point I was doing pretty well. He only has 1 card left. He really still probably should have just sat back on that guy and waited till he could draw better cards. Maybe he was afraid that these 2 forests that I was holding were actually useful things, and then I would draw some burn or something. But he chose to go in and get me down to 14 hit points. Well, I didn't mind, and I drew a Volcanic Hammer, which bode pretty well for my chances to maybe burn him out. I swung for 5 points of damage. He drew a card, played another land, and decided to actually sack his Ratchet Bomb with just 1 counter on it to kill my Jungle Lion. Which is very weird, because that suggests that he's, desperate or something. But he swings at me, so he's not trying to block, he's not trying to stall the game. He wants to swing at me 2 more times and win. Alright, I draw the Jackal Pup, which is good, so I can speed up my clock maybe a little bit. So I throw down for 3 damage. Now, if I could just get 1 more swing with this guy, the Volcanic Hammer is enough to win. And I put down my Jackal Pup just in case. Alright, on his turn, he plays a Godless Shrine. This time he lets it stay tapped, because he doesn't need to take any more damage. And swings at me again. Again, I still think this is a mistake, because, it's getting really, really close here. But he gets me down to 2 hit points. And I'm not even sure if this last card is a way for him to sacrifice his creature or not. Turns out, what that last card in his hand, though, is Ink Eyes. So this is using the old ninjutsu mechanic, where you can swap out an unblocked attacking creatures of yours for this guy. So he's going to deal 5 damage to me, and then this guy's ability is that whenever it deals damage to a player, you can put a creature in that player's graveyard into play under your control. So, not bad. So it's kind of clever. He got his guy out of the board, but because he didn't actually get me down to 0 hit points, he doesn't win him the game. And what's really hilarious is that the creatures in my in my graveyard are not very useful to him. There's Garrick, who's not a creature. The Mauler and the War Driver are both red, and the Jungle Lion cannot block. This is actually really hysterical, because he puts the Tarian Mauler out. I draw a mountain, I'm like, oh my god, I can't win the game because this Jackal Pup only deals 2 damage, the Volcanic Hammer will only deal 3 damage, I'll be 1 hit point short, except then I remembered that the Volshock Refugee had protection from red, so the Tarian Mauler could not block it, and he was tapped out with that dude in his hand. So I actually can attack him for 3 points of damage, and then I have the Volcanic Hammer to burn him out. Now, that is just dumb luck if I ever saw it. I think my deck was far outclassed by his, and I was, land flooded at any rate in that game. But he did deal 6 pain damage to himself and was down to 0 exactly, so all that damage, even that sackland, was pretty significant. So I'm pretty happy. I stole match 1. Really didn't deserve to win that at all, but I get to win a pack and go to round 2 and get crushed by a better opponent. Hooray! So let's take a look at what happened in round 2. I lose the die roll 6-5, sad, 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 and he chooses to play first, of course. This hand, kind of interesting. I do get the Jungle Lion for early aggression, Volcanic Hammer for early removal, and I do have the lands to cast this guy eventually, hoping, of course, I can draw some better stuff to play in the meantime. He plays a Hallowed Fountain tapped, and I'm kind of worried as it is a Plains. I did pass 2 Wrath effects, and my last opponent didn't seem to have any, so I'm kind of worried that this guy's got all those Wraths of God. Well, no point worrying about that. Now I play the Jungle Lion. He plays an island and puts down Waterfront Bouncer. This is a card I just didn't get this card at all. I mean, I understood what it did, but like how it's actually used, I just totally blanked on it. So it just seemed to me like, oh, whatever, you can kind of like turn any card in your hand into an unsummon. So I didn't really think that was that big of a deal, but I tacked into it just to see what he thought, like if he thought it was a valuable creature, and clearly he did, because he didn't block it. The right play here, pretty obviously, was to kill the thing with the Volcanic Hammer while I had the chance and while he was tapped out. If I had any idea how powerful this was, I really would have done that. Instead, I decided to play the Shrine of the Burning Rage, because then I can, Volcanic Hammer and Arc Lightning and this dude on my next turns and put up a bunch of charge counters on it. Well, all those dreams are for naught. He does not decide to attack with this guy. I put a counter on my thing. I draw Doran again, being like, oh my god, why is that in my deck? And I decide to, play Volcanic Hammer on his dude. Now, he could just... I didn't even realize this at the time, but I now realize he could just, tap him, pay a blue, throw away a card, and put him back into his hand. I'm just making a completely idiotic play here. It turns out he didn't want to do that. He just actually had a counter spell. I don't know. Maybe he made an error. Maybe it would have been better to throw something else away and save the counter spell for something that, he couldn't trivially counter, but it's possible that he just liked all of his cards and didn't want to throw any away. Either way, he gains a bunch of life, well, 3 life, and my spell's countered. So I attack with the Jungle Lion. He lets it go, of course, and it's his turn. He drops an island and plays this guy. So this is kind of a neat dude. He exiles an artifact, and then if I can get rid of him, of course, the artifact comes back. But that's actually very effective on his part against the Shrine of Burning, because of course it gets rid of all the charges. So even if I kill that dude, my charges are reset, and it's valuable tempo loss. Alright, at this point, I decided to play Arc Lightning, holding off on Koth, just because I thought maybe he'd have another counterspell or something. And the Arc Lightning does allow me to get both of his creatures. Again, I just totally missed the fact that he could use the Waterfront Bouncer to save the Waterfront Bouncer. Instead, though, he chose to use the Waterfront Bouncer to save his Relic Order. I guess he was really afraid of my Shrine, so that's why he decided to save the Relic dude. The plus side, though, is that this did get rid of the Waterfront Bouncer. So the Arc Lightning, did its job, and then I attacked with the Lion and got him down to 17. Alright, on his turn he does not miss a land drop. My opponents just do not miss their land drops. And plays Muldrifter. Honestly, I'm pretty happy to see that. I mean, yes, he draws 2 cards, but at least it's not doing anything terrible to the board. At this point, I decide to play Koth. This is a cool Planeswalker. I've never played with him before, but this ability to untap mountains and make them into 4/4 attackers is quite cool. So I do that. And swing in. He decides to trade his Muldrifter for the jungle line, I guess figuring that the Muldrifter did its job, drawing the cards, but I hit him for 4 damage with the mountain, and play the Kurdape, which is mighty, because I do have forests. I'm really set, except why is this Doran Siege Tower in my deck? I'm a moron. On his turn, he plays back the Warder, getting rid of my shrine. Maybe I should have saved some mana and been able to use it in response on him. I don't know. And that's all he does. I get a forest, not super helpful, but at least I can, untap a mountain and attack with it. Why I didn't attack with my Kurdape here? Oh, I guess I didn't attack with the Kurdape because I was afraid of his Relic Order attacking my dude. But honestly, his ultimate's not particularly helpful. I don't want him to suicide to use the ultimate, because really it would just let me kill something and lose my Planeswalkers. So, I don't know, maybe I should have just let the Kurdape go, because I do need to get him down and my opponent down as fast as possible. Not sure. At the end of my turn, doesn't really matter though, because he plays Into the Royal. Kind of a neat card. So it's a bounce, and then if you can kick it, you draw a card. So you get tempo, and it replaces itself, which is pretty strong. On his turn, he plays Stillmoon Cavalier, fairly powerful card, but it doesn't have protection from red, so I'm actually not that concerned about it. On my turn, I make a really hilarious play here. I play my mountain, I play back Koth, and I use his ability on the mountain I just played, not realizing that makes it summoning sick. Whoops! Well, I can't really attack with the Kurdape because he can make his Stillmoon guy first striker, and it doesn't really matter if he makes him a first striker or not. The point is that he can double team and take out my ape. So I decided not to attack into it. Possibly that was an error, because I bet he really didn't want that artifact to come back, so maybe he would have let the damage go through. Not quite sure. On his turn, he plays a Basalt Monolith. Kind of a neat card, but doesn't really do much unless he actually gets another spell, so I was pretty happy that it wasn't impacting the game. He decides to give his dude flying, and he sends his dude at my Planeswalker, buffing him up to 3 in the process. Alright, this is kind of neat, this Beast Within here, because I figure before he's about to kill my Planeswalker, I'll actually be able to cast the Beast Within on the Planeswalker, and then get a Hill Giant, which is kind of useful, provided my opponent, of course, doesn't put down any more creatures. So in the meantime, I untap a mountain and swing. He decides to chump block my mountain with the Relic Order, perhaps fearing that I have burn and not wanting 4 damage to come through. This does bring me my shrine back. And then I pass the turn. So on his turn, as I predicted, he flies at me with, he flies at my Planeswalker with his Cavalier. In response, I cast Beast Within on my Planeswalker, and I get a Beast. He, amazingly enough, has nothing on his turn, so I get to start building charges on my shrine, and I swing at him for 5 damage, holding my breath. Well, amazingly, he doesn't actually have anything, so I play this Goblin War Driver that I do. It's not useful to use, except that it's a red spell, so it puts another counter on the Shrine of Burning, which allows me to burn him out for the win. So, got another game. I'm not sure what actually happened there. I don't know if he was flooded, or what he did wrong. Maybe he just didn't draw... He didn't really draw any strong cards, is the thing. So I'm not sure what exactly he was holding on to in his hand. But I felt pretty lucky getting that game out, especially since I wasted a turn using the Planeswalker ability on a summoning sick mountain. Okay, second game, he again gets to pick, because he lost the previous game, he chooses to go first. And I've got the dream here, I've got the Arc Lightning and the Kurdape with mountains and forests. Yeehaw! And even the Quirion Dryad. So I play the Kurdape, he keeps some mana open. I put down a forest to make the Kurdape mighty, swing at him for 2 points of damage. And then I put down the Dryad. Hold my breath, no counterspell, great. At 3 mana, he plays a Coalition Relic, which, you know, is going to be able to let him ramp up. But I don't really mind. Here I considered casting Arc Lightning to make my Quirion Dryad bigger and get some burn in, try to race him out, but I don't have enough support among my cards. I've got 6 total lands, which is more than I really ever want to see. So I decided to hold that back, because I might need the Arc Lightning to kill some of his creatures. I just swing at him for 3. He puts a charge counter on his Relic, and it's his turn. Alright, he does not miss a land drop, because my opponents never do, and plays a Mole Drifter with the mana from the Coalition Relic from the previous round. Again, I don't really mind seeing that, because my Curd Ape can actually attack into the Mole Drifter. No biggie. He casts Oust on my Curd Ape, though. So this puts the creature second from the top of my library, and then I gain 3 life. It's a pretty effective spell, actually, if you use it on something that I don't want to draw. Like, I would rather he just killed my Curd Ape than have it be coming up again with all these lands. I can hope to draw something better. Here, I don't know, I make a controversial decision maybe. I play the Jackal Pup that I just drew, and then I do decide to use Arc Lightning to kill off his Mole Drifter and deal 1 point of damage to him to put another counter on my Dryad. So I figure, you know, I really got to start racing here. And I swing at him for 3 points, getting him down to 11. Good times. On his turn, he does not miss a land drop, and plays this thing. Never seen this card before. But it seems like, basically, if you don't do damage to him for 4 turns, you lose the game. I mean, that's pretty much it, because it looks like that activated ability can be done more than once per turn, and the counters don't go away when you use it. So it's kind of ridiculous. So I realize that trouble is a-brewing if I don't get some damage on him. He starts to tap his lands, changes his mind, then taps him again, and plays the Sower of Temptation. Good play. So this is going to let him steal the Quirion Dryad, which is, you know, not bad. And then, because of course he has no green spells, every spell he plays from then on is going to make the Quirion Dryad bigger. Of course, the Sower is a little bit vulnerable as far as mind control effects go, and I'm hoping I'll be able to kill it. In fact, this Master of the Wild Hunt, if I can just get him to stay on the board for a round, I can use his tap ability to kill the Sower and get my Quirion Dryad back. So I attack with the Jackal Pup, knowing of course that he is not going to block it with the Sower, and I have just enough mana to empty my hand here, getting the Curd Ape and the Master down. Now, my opponent realizes, of course, the danger of the Master of the Hunt, so he plays another kick into the Royal to get him back to my hand, delaying my ability to get my Dryad back by a turn. He's got more to do. He plays a Palladium Mirror, which is basically just a mana ramper with only 2 cards in his hand. I don't know what he might be ramping up to, but I don't really care. I'm happy it's not something bigger or scarier. Swings at me for 2 damage. Since I did gain 3 life from that Oust, I have a pretty healthy life total, and I don't really mind. I get Lotus Petal. This is the one time I drew it in this draft, and the one time that it was totally useless to me in this draft, so hooray. But I put the Master of the Hunt back down, throw the Lotus Petal out, thinking, whatever, this is just the most useless piece of crap in my life. And again, hope that the Master of the Hunt can just hang on for a round, so that I can use its ability to get my Dryad back. On his turn, he does not play a land, but instead he plays the Blade Splicer, which is kind of nifty. I think I passed this thing. So it's a 1/1, it gives golems first strike, but it also comes with a golem. That's actually pretty good pricing for a 3-mana creature. It's basically like you're getting a hill giant with first strike. And it's 2 creatures for 3 mana. I mean, that's good stuff. He then plays the Leonin Relic Warder to steal my Lotus Petal. I'm like, why would you do that? Who cares about this Lotus Petal? But whatever, I guess he figured he might as well use it, or lose it, as they say. So, he attacks with the Dryad and with the Sower. I don't want to kill off this Dryad. I mean, I could if I blocked with everything, but I feel like I'm going to get it back next turn. So I take the 8 points of damage. I'm not too worried yet. And he taps out for Ravages of War. Destroy all lands. This makes me wonder why he was playing all these lands if he knew he was going to draw it. Maybe it was a late top deck or something, but he's losing actually more lands than I am. And I've got a land in my hand. At this point I realize it's actually kind of handy I have this Lotus Petal tucked away, because if I can kill the Leonin Relic Warder, I'll get the Lotus Petal back with this mountain. Yeah, I can actually maybe play something that I draw. And he also made the Quirion Dryad bigger by casting that spell. I think that had to have been an error, because this Master is giving me a wolf every turn, which is, and then the tap ability lets me deal 2 damage to something every turn. So first I can steal the Sower, then I can steal the Leonin Relic Order and get my Lotus Petal back. I mean, maybe it's a tight call, because with this Relic, and with this Palladium Mirror, he does have, 4 mana at his disposal. And maybe he was thinking that 4 mana would be worth it, and compared to me having, 0 mana. Alright, I decide that first things first, I need to get my Dryad back. This Volcanic Hammer did tempt me to, maybe get the Leonin Relic Order with the wolf, and then cast the Volcanic Hammer on the Sower. That might have been a more precise play, just so I could get my Lotus Petal back, but I thought maybe, I could just use the wolf to kill the Leonin Relic Order next turn. Maybe I wasn't in a rush to get that thing back. So I put down my handy-dandy mountain, and now I hold my breath to see if he's actually going to have... At this point, since the Relic was tapped last turn, he can only do 3 mana this turn, so I see if he's going to do anything. He doesn't. I get another wolf. I get Koth, which would have been great back when I had, land. And I decide to swing with my Dryad just to see what he would do. This might have been a mistake. I don't know. I mean, he could have tapped out, or blocked out, and killed my Dryad. But I figured if he did that, he probably wouldn't be able to cast anything, even with his extra mana in time, before I could just beat him to death with my other creatures. Especially since I could also then have a growing wolf army. So, it's a good gamble, I think, on my part, and he just chumps blocks with the Blade Splicer, which means the Golem no longer has first strike, but whatever. I use the Master of the Hunt to tap the wolf and kill off his mana. I decided that getting my mana online wasn't really worth it compared to getting his mana offline. So now he only has 2 mana to use per turn. The one that he saves up, plus the one that he can get again for tapping it. If he draws a land and a spell, then he can get up to, 3 mana. But he does nothing. I get another wolf. I get another planeswalker. I decide to attack with basically everything but my Master, who can be killed by the Golem, and the wolf, who is summoning sick. And the reason for this is that actually this Luminarch Ascension is up to 3 counters, and he could charge the Coalition Relic this turn and then tap it again the next turn to actually put an angel onto the battlefield. I decided not to let that happen, so I just swing at everything, even though I know that he's going to be able to, kill off these little dudes. So he blocks my 2-1 with the Golem and the Curdape with the Warder, then realizes, wait, no, that's dumb, and decides to chump block my Dryad instead. So my Jackal Pup dies, and I take 2 damage, and then the Quirion Dryad gets blocked, but the important thing is this 1-1 Curdape does get through for 1 damage to stop another counter from coming up on the Ascension. So I don't mind taking 3 damage from my Jackal Pup, that's okay, and I get my Lotus Petal back. So now I actually have enough mana to be able to play a Volcanic Hammer, and next turn I really feel like I've got pretty good odds of being able to tap him, or to kill him out, especially since now that the Golem took damage from the Jackal Pup, I can use the Master of the Hunt's ability to finish off the Golem. Alright, I hold my breath to see what he's going to do this turn. He's got nothing. So even without having to do Volcanic Hammer, he just concedes, and I win the game. So the Lotus Petal ends up being totally useless. Well, I feel like he still had the better deck than I did, and I just kind of stole that game. So that's 2 matches that I sort of stole. I won 2 packs already. That's great. And let's take a look at what happened in the final match. Oops, I need to close this thing. Alright, so this is for basically, 1 extra pack. That's kind of what I like about the Swiss system, or maybe, you could argue that you don't like it, because the finals don't particularly have any more pressure than any other match. Every match is for a pack when you're playing Swiss. I win the die roll, decide to go first, and I get a tragic hand with just 1 land. Alright, I'm not going to keep that. I mulligan. This hand, not super great. I do have 2 creatures I can cast, but I only have 2 lands, and this Garruk is unlikely to see the light of day anytime soon. So, I play a mountain. He plays a forest. I play the firewalker and start getting some counters going on it. Gets up to now it's a 2-2. Good times. He plays this nice mountain or forest, which I would have liked to have, and plays explore. Really cool card. I haven't seen it before, but you can play an extra land and it replaces itself. That just seems really solid. Really solid indeed. Alright, I attack with my Slith Firewalker. And I am happy to have seen this forest, so if I can get lucky and get one more forest, and then I'll actually be able to play Garrick. And now I'm doing pretty well. Garrick and this guy, Koth, it'll be pretty good times. Especially since I have this War Driver, now I've got some serious damage coming at him. On his turn, he untaps. He's up to 4 lands, though, because of that Explore, and plays the Oracle of Muldaya. Never seen that before. So you can play an additional land, and he can play the top card of his library if it's a land. So as long as the top card of his library is a land, it's kind of like, a free card, because he's not spending anything from his hand to play it. Well, the top card of his library is Farseek, so he doesn't get to get any cool advantage there. And on my turn, I figure, I might as well swing into this guy. Now, I draw Harmonize, which is great, except I only have 1 forest. But I do put down Koth. I untap a non-summoning sick mountain. And I swing at him for fairly impressive damage, especially with his battle cry getting used, sneaking a couple extra points of damage in there. He does not block me with his Oracle. He just goes all the way down to 6. Feeling pretty good about my chances. Yes, I can't cast any of my spells, but, if I can just hang around for another turn with these mountains, I might be able to do pretty well. Well, the top card of his library then becomes a mountain, so he plays it. And he can also play that forest, which was on top of his library. So good call on his part, it turns out. Not blocking my Warcry dude with his Oracle, because that just gave him 2 free cards. Well, he's got a handful of 6 cards. I wonder what he's going to tap out for. And he taps out for an incredibly good creature. This is something that with Kicker lets him destroy a non-creature permanent. Again, had he blocked with this Oracle last turn, he would not have been able to play that extra land, and he would not have been able to play this guy with the Kicker. So, very good job on his part, staying cool under pressure, because that allows him to kill my Planeswalker. Alright, at this point, I'm in a little bit of trouble, because the Slith Firewalker, now he can actually block it and kill it off, which is a little sad. And I draw a Kurdape, though. A little late for the Kurdape. Really not doing great against this field. I swing with the team, because even though he can kill off my War Driver with the Shambler, I figure if he does so, he's either chump blocking my Firewalker with the Oracle, or letting 5 damage go through, and then if I draw some kind of burn, I'll be able to kill him. He makes kind of an odd play here. He trades with the War Driver and chumps with the Shambler, when it seems to me he could have just killed the War Driver with the Shambler and then chumped with the Oracle. Maybe he didn't realize that Battle Cry only gives a +1 to attack to other creatures. Yeah, each other attacking creature. So he loses a creature he didn't need to lose, but he does buy himself another turn. I play a Kurdape, and I wait and see what he's going to do next with his big pile of lands and 6 cards in hand. He plays the Thornling. Well, that's pretty good, because it does let him stop me all day. The Thornling can become indestructible, so there's really no point attacking into it. And the Kurdape is not going to do enough damage. It's only going to put him at 4 hit points. I draw one of the most tragic cards of all time. That means I now have drawn all of my double green costing cards. Seriously, I think if I could have played any of these spells, I would have trivially won this game. But this just demonstrates the importance of building your mana base correctly. Well, unable to play anything, I can't do anything but watch as he plays Cultivate. So clearly he's got some kind of lots of land theme going on. He reveals his stuff, puts more lands down, plays the Obstinate Baloth, which is really just a 4/4 here. The other ability isn't relevant now, but a 4/4 that gives him 4 hit points is really devastating because that life gain really sets me back. I draw a mountain, which is just like, if there's like any other way for the universe to have like spat in my face, it was definitely that mountain. So I still can't draw any of these 3 really amazing cards. Just like any of these cards would have been awesome. But I can't do anything. So I let him untap. I wonder what he's going to do with 8 mana. He, first of all, pillages my forest, which makes it even less likely that I'll be able to do anything. And then he plows under 2 of my mountains. Holy gods. So this puts 2 mountains on top of my deck. That is fabulous, and he just sits tight. Well, I draw one of my mountains. Really can't do much. He plays Survival of the Fittest, so he can discard a creature card and search for another creature card from his library. Alright. He attacks with his Thornling, which there's no point in blocking because it can trample and be indestructible. He pumps it up, gets me down to 13. I draw my other mountain. And then at the end of his turn, he uses this ability to search up Boggarden Hellkite. Well, that means he can actually play it on the next turn because he has all that mana. And then he can kill both my creatures. And then he's got a 5/5 flyer. And I'm like, alright, that's it. I throw in the towel. I concede. I don't know. Was there anything I could have drawn that would have allowed me to hang tight? I don't think there was. Especially with just my red mana. But I could be wrong. So, that was great. I mean, that's really how I feel like probably most of the games in this cube should have gone, with just me and my crappy deck getting steamrolled. But what can you do? Alright, I decide to play first, of course. And in this game, I get to live the dream. I play the Taiga, which was a mountain and a forest, and a Curd Ape. And my hand's not even that bad. I got removal. I got some card draw. Alright, let's do this. He plays this Noble Hierarch, and having seen how good he is when he ramps up his mana, I decide not to wait for this Arc Lightning. I decide to just incinerate that sucker right now. So I attack with the Curd Ape. Of course he's not going to chump block. I incinerate that thing. It's his turn. He has another land. He plays Sakura Tribe Elder. Here, I decide to actually Arc Lightning one on the Tribe Elder and two on him. What this does is it stops him from chump blocking and then sacking the Tribe Elder. This does allow, 2 extra damage of mine to get through. I figure I really got to race him hard before he gets, built up and plays his ridiculous spells. On his turn, he plays another mana thingy-majig, which is actually quite a bit of mana. Thankfully, I had just drawn Magma Jet, so I decided to play it onto his dude. So, at this point, I see a Mountain and a War Driver, and I've got this Lead the Stampede business going on. So, I decide to, put the land on the bottom, because I have plenty of land, to put the creature on top. It was silly, maybe. I'm going to draw that thing on my next turn anyway, before I can actually play Lead the Stampede, but whatever, I want creatures, so that's fine. Now, unfortunately, on his turn, 5 mana, he plays, actually 6 mana, because of this Ancient Tomb. He deals 2 damage to himself and plays this Mold Shambler, allowing him to kill off my Taiga, which does not make the Curd Ape any smaller, because I still have other forests, but now I can't play that creature that I left on top of my library because it's 2 red mana. It's the exact opposite of last game, with the 3 forests and 1 mountain, and I can't play a red spell. Any of those other green cards would be amazing here. Fine, I play Lead the Stampede, and here's what I see. 3 lands, Beast Within, and the Firewalker, which I cannot play. So, and then everything has to go in the bottom of the library. So it's just like the universe is just cutting deep right here on me. I have to put everything on the bottom of the library, so I can't even get any of those lands. I can't play the creature I drew. I can't attack with the Curd Ape because this is a 3/3. Yeah, so, everything's great. Even if I could play one of these things, it doesn't even work. This Hill Giant is just beating me right now. Well, I wait and see what he's going to do. He's got the Arbor Elf. Chooses not to attack. I draw Jungle Lion. Something else would have been a lot better there, like Harmonize or Garrick or that guy who makes wolves. But no, it's going to be the Jungle Lion, which is just totally useless. Oh god, I just missed what he did. Oh yeah, it says he played a forest, he tapped a forest, and then tapped this guy to untap the forest for some extra mana. And he, again, tombs himself for this thing, the Avenger of Zendikar. So, it puts a bunch of 0/1 plants into the battlefield. But of course, there's a little catch, which is that whenever you play an additional land, each of the plants gets a +1/+1 counter on it. I don't know, that thing that just wins games. So he swings at me with his Hill Giant, I'm like, whatever. I get the Shrine of Burning Rage. Too little, too late. I put it down. I can survive his attacks for 1 turn. He puts another land. These are all 2/3s now. I can survive 1 turn's worth of attacks, and he leaves a few behind to, stop me from racing. So I just block the one that I can block with the Curd Ape. wait for my turn to pass, untap, and I draw the Planeswalker that I cannot play. Again, I don't think there actually was any card in my deck that would let me win from this position, but I, once again, like in the last game, have 3 cards I cannot play. Oh, wonderful symmetry. And then I lose the match. Well, I can't really complain too much. I did get unlucky in the last game with mana, especially in the second game. I mean, in this game, even if I could have played those 2 stupid creatures, I still would have lost to his, ridiculous Avenger. But the first game I could have won if I had gotten another forest down. Still, though, anyway, can't complain about luck, because I did get super lucky in the first 2 rounds, and I'm pretty happy that I paid 7 tickets to play in this cube, and then got $8 worth of packs out of it. Unfortunately, those are Innistrad packs, which cannot be used to draft 12th, and I don't really want to draft Innistrad just yet, but when the final set of that is released, and the set is complete, I'll be able to use those 2 blocks for drafting. So it is $8 that I will get eventually. It's pretty fun to look at all these powerful cards and play in the cube. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time when we go back to 12th.